Thank you for logging on. Nick and I wanted to take some time today to share some insights. We've been very busy over the last several weeks since the COVID-19 pandemic has really picked up, and we've done 8 community forums in the last 2.5 weeks, and we've been in front of a couple hundred business owners, entrepreneurs, and have spoken to several of them directly. And we've seen some very interesting things over the last 2 weeks. And so we just wanted to take a couple minutes here to share some of our top insights. So with that, Nick, what have you been seeing that's been of interest?
Well, I think the first story that really resonates with me is the idea of accelerating the crisis, and how a business owner really took a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach to reach out directly to his customers and understand the challenges that they're facing related to the crisis, and how he can change his business model to be able to meet those challenges that they're having and kind of the positive outcomes from that. And I think, Patrick, you have more familiarity with the story, but I'd like to use.
Yeah, that was an amazing story, and that was an entrepreneur who had seen our recession tactics for empire builders, and really it really resonated when we had shared the insight of accelerate the crisis. And he took the time to put together a letter and send it out to all of his customers, recognizing that they're facing challenging times, and offered an olive branch to say, if you're having challenges, let's talk about it now. If not, I'm going to assume that you're going to be renewing and everything is going well. And if there's anything you can do for us, please let us know. And the way I understand it is the vast majority of the customers said they're in good shape, and they were very grateful for the letter. A couple did reach out, said they were having challenges, so they're working with them one-on-one on, maybe doing some things to help them out. But what was the best part about that whole story was he actually won new business through that process because of some referrals, and the people are grateful for being transparent and proactive in the outreach. So.
Well, I think it took a lot of courage to reach out directly to his customers and start to lay out the plan right away.
Yeah.
And not knowing how many customers might cancel their, contracts with him because of the, all the uncertainty surrounding this crisis. But it turns out that, he did lose some customers, which is inevitable, but also gaining that business and the trust with his customers to move through this can prove to be extremely valuable as he navigates the crisis, not knowing how long it will be.
And what really struck me about it was, as I understand it, his contracts renew every 3 to 6 months, but now it gave him clarity through third quarter because he proactively reached out to people. And I just thought that was a brilliant move. And yes, I agree, Nick, that took a lot of courage, and it looks like it's paying dividends here to be proactive. And so
something else that I saw was an article in the Minneapolis-St. Paul magazine, and it related to restaurants. And clearly restaurants and bars have been one of the hardest hit industries, probably the hardest hit industry. And they were interviewing some of the more well-known restaurant owners in the Twin Cities and how they've been thinking about, what just happened to their industry. They went through the typical things about, car side to go and delivery and some of the challenges there. But what I was more interested in is, what their mindset has been and how it's changed, and also how they're thinking about the future of what restaurants could look like. One of the quotes that I'll read a quote from the owner of Young Joni, Ann Kim. She was just starting to open, she's in the process of building out a 4th restaurant, and she admits that, here's her quote, Kim admits that she almost pulled the plug on the new spot because even though the construction loans had all been set in motion and the general contractor was getting paid, the thought of figuring out how to make money to pay it all back was nearly too much. I was really depressed and angry for a long time. I thought that it would be better to cut losses and walk. This is the most expensive project we've ever done. But then I got over my pity party because I don't go down without a fight. I've had a total shift in perspective, and it's time to get creative and innovative. I have to look at the menu differently. Think newly about service. What does Uptown need from me? And I thought that quote really resonated with me, in the idea that I think everybody's been in that, cycle of, grief where you realize, woe is me. And then slowly start realizing that, nobody's going to bail you out of this situation in general. And you just need to really think about it differently and invert the problem and think about what new opportunities are out there because everything has been changed. The whole chessboard got flipped over, and what can you do to really adapt? And none more so than the restaurant industry or business owners will need to execute on that.
Yeah, the restaurateurs, the entrepreneurs in that space I've seen some very inspiring stories where, of course, the dine-in options are limited, but now they're fully going after contactless pickup and also expanding their delivery options. And it's really inspiring to see that, where people are taking the opportunity to pivot and work on a part of their business to survive through this time and actually thrive. So
I've heard from even local restaurants where we've done some takeout and asked them how they're doing, and they say they're doing relatively well given the situation. Even with it being a closed restaurant and takeout only, they found that the communities rallied around them and supported them. And so I think that's what, that change in mindset and realizing that if you can keep working at this, there's new opportunities is critical, as everybody works through this.
Yeah. And then one of the final things I think we should touch upon, because it's on the top of everybody's mind right now, is that starting last Friday, I was on a call with a handful of entrepreneurs, and literally real time in the afternoon, one of them said they had just gotten funded and actually showed up in their account. And so we're seeing stories of that, and there's some interesting things coming out. We're familiar with a few more people that have gotten cash in their account. And then we just came across an interesting website. Do you want to share a little bit about the COVID loan tracker that you saw, Nick?
Yeah, well, and what's primarily on business owners' minds is the payroll protection program and how and the applications were opened up. I think it was 2 Fridays ago, and the process has been, messy from the beginning. A lot of large banks weren't able to process these loans and weren't allowing current customers unless you had a loan out with the bank already. A lot of community banks have really stepped up to support the small business community to the tune of, we've got this tracker and it's saying that there's 4,000 plus businesses that have applied for an extreme amount of money. Now, we can't assert whether the accuracy of that amount is exactly right, but it's clear to say that there's a gold rush, that's going on with this payroll protection program. And we are seeing people get money in their accounts. So it is working, but it's working extremely fast. It's being administered by the SBA. The SBA does 30 plus billion a year. They're asked to do 350 plus billion in the course of a month to 2 months. It's going to be a messy process, but business owners are starting to get the funds in their accounts, and that's no small feat to be able to do that. And I think the community banks that are in our area are really stepping up to make that happen. And it's good that they're able to fill the gap when some of the larger banks weren't able to.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up, because we're seeing our friends like at Heritage Bank and Flagship Bank and a number of the community banks around town that have really stepped up and really helping people through this process. And that's just really good to see. The other thing, speaking of service providers in the time of need, hearing good stories from people that use HR and payroll providers like Insperity and Gusto and others that have been really helpful, being able to calculate some of the employee payment programs that need to go into those PPP calculations. So that's been really nice to hear that people are getting good value from those service providers in the time of need. So
yeah, that's definitely being able to leverage an HR service provider and be able to use the forms to be able to pull your 941s down and summarize, what your payroll expenses would be. Those have proved to be invaluable as you're trying to calculate what you're eligible for from this program, and make sure you have the supporting documentation to have the max amount forgiven once you work through the 2.5 months of payroll expenses.
Yeah, definitely. Well, with that, we're going to let it be a wrap. We're going to continue to share our thoughts real time as we can. And we appreciate everybody listening to this video. We have got a number of our resources right on Hill Capital's website. So feel free to utilize those. They're free to access and utilize. And join us for one of our upcoming community forums and our big event, Empire Builders, where we're going to talk about thriving through the chaos and inverting the problem. So with that, anything else, Nick?
No, I just mentioned that Empire Builders on May 7th. there's registration directly on our website, and we'll be doing our recession tactics for Empire Builders community forums going forward on every Friday. So feel free to register for those as well. Hope you can join us, and we'll continue to do these videos going forward. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.